In 1993, a movie came out that would change everything. Dinosaurs roamed free across the big screen like never before. But the way they looked and acted wasn't quite like the way scientists think they actually looked and acted. Today, we're going to talk about just how real those dinosaurs really were. Welcome to my channel. The original Jurassic Park might be one of the greatest movies ever made. At least that's what a lot of people consider it to be. And there are plenty of reasons why it's considered so great. For starters, it's an awesome adventure with amazing special effects for its time. It's a fun story that is enjoyable for all ages. And it also sparked a whole new interest in dinosaurs, which inspired a generation of paleontologists, including me. But how much of what we see in the film is real? You know, when it comes to the science, well, that's a little more complicated. When it comes to the portrayal of dinosaurs in movies, the bar is set pretty low. Mads Mikkelsen reading Wikipedia pages about dinosaurs while standing next to green screens would probably be considered an improvement over most dinosaur movies. That being said, Jurassic Park was revolutionary when it came out, and it didn't just raise the bar, it broke it. This isn't going to be a video about how the Jurassic Park movies compare to other movies about dinosaurs. There are plenty of videos out there doing that already. Instead, we're going to talk about how the dinosaurs in the original 1993 film compare to what we currently know about them through the field of paleontology. We're going to start off with one of the stars of the show, the Velociraptors. In the movie, they're man-sized, intelligent, pack-hunting carnivores with deadly sharp claws and teeth and no feathers. Now, what does the science say about them? Well, the first thing that we have to point out here is that what the movie calls Velociraptors is actually a combination of two different dinosaurs, the Velociraptor and the Deinonychus. They were similar enough that it just kind of became one long-crested raptor in the public's imagination. So we'll refer to it simply as a Velociraptor here because it's easier. But if you want to learn more about the difference between these two animals, I made an entire video on it. Anyway, when it comes to the size of velociraptors, the scientific community has settled on the idea that they were closer to the size of a turkey than a person, although some researchers still debate this. One thing that most paleontologists agree on, however, is that they had feathers, which the movie gets totally wrong. We have pretty good evidence that most, if not all, dinosaurs had feathers at some point, and we have a few feathered dino friends starring in the series now, too. As for their intelligence, we don't really know how smart they were, but the movie couldn't have been too far off, considering that some researchers estimate that they had brains roughly the size of a human toddler's brain. Another thing that the movie got right was the fact that they hunted in packs. So overall, the velociraptors in the movie aren't too bad. They're a little too human-like in terms of intelligence and hunting behavior, but we have to remember that this is a movie based off of a book written in the early 1990s, and our knowledge of dinosaurs has come a long way since then. Next up is the Tyrannosaurus Rex. How did the filmmakers do with this dino? Well, the first thing that we should probably address is the roar. If you haven't heard it in a while, here it is. Do you recognize any of these sounds? Yep. It's a mix of a baby elephant, a tiger, a lion, and a crocodile. No real Tyrannosaurus sounds were used because, well, we didn't have any at the time. But paleontologists have since discovered some sounds that might have been made by relatives of the T-Rex. Take a listen to this. Not exactly what I'd imagine a T-Rex sounded like, but hey, it's something. Another thing that the movie got mostly right was its appearance. The only real differences are that the T-Rex likely had feathers, and its eyes were probably a bit lower on its head, giving it better vision. Also, paleontologists debate whether or not it could run as fast as it does in the movie. Some say that it could move at a decent clip, while others say it was more of a slow-moving beast. As for its behavior, that's where things get dicey. The T-Rex in the movie is basically the predator version of Michael Myers from Halloween. It sees a human, and it wants to kill it. A lot of the movie's action stems from the idea that the T-Rex is stalking John Hammond's grandchildren and killing anyone else who gets in its way. But in reality, there is no evidence that it was such a ferocious hunter. Sure, it was a carnivore and it was probably the top predator of its time, but there's no reason to believe that it went around looking for humans to kill. In fact, most of the evidence we have points to it being more of a scavenger that picked over dead carcasses. Now, I know what you're thinking. What about that scene where it runs through the jungle and stops to smell a leaf before eating it? Does that not prove that it was a hunter? Well, not necessarily. Even animals that eat meat occasionally will still eat plants if given the chance. There's also the theory that the T-Rex ate the leaf because it was trying to find a nesting site and knew that dinosaurs that ate certain plants laid more eggs. Overall, though, the T-Rex in the movie is pretty accurate, but it's missing its feathers. Also, there's a good chance that it wasn't nearly as vicious as it is in the movie. Now let's talk about feathers. Hadrosaurs, ankylosaurs, sauropods, carcharodontosauras, ornithomimids, birds, ceratopsians, even theropods. Yep, even theropods had feathers to some degree. And yet, Jurassic Park portrayed basically all of the species in the park as scaly reptiles. Why did they do this? Well, honestly, I think it comes down to visual dramatic impact. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that a T-Rex covered in feathers would have been scarier than the one in the movie. I think we all know that a T-Rex without its feathers is a much bigger threat than one that's all puffed up. Just look at the merchandise. Now, let's talk about whether or not cloning dinosaurs like they do in the movie is possible. Short answer, no. Long answer, no. Not unless you're making Jurassic World Dominion. I know that the movie is based off of a fictional book, but the idea that you could extract DNA from a mosquito trapped in amber to clone a dinosaur is just plain wrong. There are a few reasons why. First off, DNA degrades rapidly, even in places like amber where the environment is mostly unchanging. Second, to clone an animal, you need a full genome. This means you can't just use a few bits of DNA here and there. You need the whole thing. Finally, even if you somehow got a complete and undamaged genome, you still wouldn't be able to bring the animal back to life unless you have some sort of synthetic biology superpower that we don't know about yet. Now, there are efforts underway to bring back some extinct animals like the woolly mammoth and the passenger pigeon. But these efforts rely on using genetic material from recently extinct animals and bringing them back in existing species like elephants and pigeons. We're not using ancient DNA and creating something brand new. Yet. So is de-extinction possible? Maybe, but it's unlikely that we'll be seeing any Jurassic Park-style de-extinction anytime soon. Now we're going to cover a few other species in the franchise, but if you'd like us to do a deeper dive on one particular dino, let us know in the comments section below. So moving on, let's talk about some of the other species featured in the film. The Dilophosaurus that attacks Dennis Nedry in the movie is completely different from the one that lived in the late Jurassic period. The real one didn't have a frill and it didn't spit venom. The Mosasaurus was a bit smaller than the giant one shown in Jurassic World, but otherwise it's pretty similar. The Brachiosaurus shown in the movie seems pretty accurate when it comes to its posture and movement. So overall, the dinosaurs shown in the original Jurassic Park weren't too far off. The most obvious difference is that they were all missing their feathers, which we've since learned that most, if not all, dinosaurs had to some extent. Outside of that, though, the species shown in the movie aren't too bad. So was Jurassic Park, right? Well, I think it's safe to say that it was ahead of its time. The science of paleontology has come a long way since the early 1990s, and some of the information that the filmmakers worked with is now outdated. But I think that's okay. The reason that the Jurassic Park movies are so beloved is because they captured the hearts and minds of audiences everywhere with some awesome creatures that seemed completely alien-like. But over time, we've learned that these so-called aliens weren't so alien-like after all. They were more like us than we thought. But I think that's what makes them so fascinating. While the science may evolve, the wonder it inspires never goes extinct. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video if you liked it, and leave your suggestions for topics that we should cover in the future.